Hello and thank you for watching another edition of ARFCOM News. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. Calling all patriots, the big luau is upon us. This could be the last big political fight before things get all civil disobediency in Virginia. Lobby day for the Virginia Citizens Defense League is January 20th. If you live in Virginia or if you can afford to get there, please get to the General Assembly building on the 20th. If you need help getting to the Capitol, the VCDL is chartering buses from locations all over the area. We'll link in the description. Virginia is the epicenter of the efforts of the 1% to disarm the masses. Like mice voting to bell a cat, the state legislature voted to ban guns at the state capitol. It's almost like they're afraid of the people they govern. Maybe it has something to do with the more than 70 pre-filed gun-related bills, including 15 on January 7th alone. They range from merely unnecessary to absolutely ridiculous. HB 812 would prohibit anyone who isn't an FFL holder from buying more than one handgun a month. HB 960 places a new sales tax on guns and ammo. HB 961 is a ban on so-called assault weapons, because of course it is. It also bans silencers outright and sets up a registry for folks who already own so-called assault weapons. I'm confident they will see every bit of compliance with that registry that New York did. HB 899 would ban solid copper bullets like the Barnes TAC XP or the Hornady GMX. Not only is this preposterous because solid copper bullets are quite common in hunting and defense ammo, it's directly opposite the efforts of environmentalists to reduce heavy metal poisoning in carrion eaters by banning lead ammo for hunting. Obviously, this issue is moving very quickly, but here is a list of the bills that have made it out of committee at the time this video was rendered. We'll also include a link in the description to the ARFCOM thread, which lists every bill and its summary. In a move that seems almost a calculated offense, Governor Blackface asked us all to kindly shut up while he civilly destroys individual liberty. Yes, the man who ominously threatened vague consequences if law enforcement refused to enforce his draconian vision unironically told us to refrain from promoting fear and intimidation. In the middle of all of this, the Virginia legislature has the audacity to consider a bill that would make it much harder to remove politicians who violate their oaths of office or otherwise provoke the good people of Virginia into recalling them. HB 842 would require that a petition to remove a politician from office collect a number of signatures equal to 25% of the total registered voters in the locality instead of only 10% of the number of votes cast at the last election for the office. And it requires the signatures be collected within a 60-day period. That obviously makes it far more difficult to remove corrupt politicians from office. But Virginia doesn't have a monopoly on stupid. New York State Senator Brad Hoylman introduced what could already be a ringer for the dumbest bill of the year. Senate Bill S-2143A is supposed to be an attempt to ban so-called ghost guns. Basically just a scary term for any firearm made or finished at home and not for sale. Most of the language in the bill relates to making or teaching people how to make guns, and if the creepiness of banning knowledge isn't enough for you, this line seems to make it illegal to put your gun back together after cleaning it. Any person other than a gunsmith duly licensed pursuant to section 400.00 of this chapter who assembles, manufactures, or causes to be assembled or manufactured a firearm, rifle, shotgun, or unfinished firearm frame or receiver is guilty of a Class C felony. Colorado got more than a full week into the new year and an entire day past the effective date for their new red flag law before using it. Police arrested a man suspected of beating his wife and filed a petition to keep the guns they seized. And that's all fine, but if he's locked up, why do we care about seizing the guns? If he is dangerous, why let him out? Can you be sure those were the only guns he had? What's to stop him from stabbing his wife? See, the biggest problem with red flag laws, setting aside arguments about what really qualifies as due process for the purpose of seizing property, dangerous people should be locked up. For the state to come in and just take some of their guns and hope that a dangerous person doesn't have more guns or resort to some other means of killing is just insane. As dumb as these laws are, that didn't stop Bloomberg-backed Karens from getting a red flag bill pushed through the New Hampshire House on January 8th. HB 687 is unlikely to face any trouble passing the Democrat-controlled Senate, and Republican Governor Chris Sununu has not committed to veto it. He did call it unnecessary, but he did not offer any substantive opposition to the gross violation of due process that this law obviously represents. I know you're probably sick of hearing his name, but Michael Bloomberg is personally responsible for a respectable portion of the funding for gun control organizations. Everytown, March for Our Lives, and Moms Looking for Action Near You are all little more than Michael Bloomberg's personal brown shirt, or in this case, red shirt, army. It would be a gross exaggeration to claim that there would be no gun control movement without Bloomberg. But without Bloomberg, they wouldn't have a multi-million-dollar media empire to manufacture the appearance of a grassroots movement. Now, I'm a free speech extremist, but it's really spooky how much public influence this man has without even accounting for his anonymous influence. The 2018 tax return for anti-rights group March for Our Lives shows that the group collected almost $18 million in 2018. That'll pay for a lot of protesters, but the really interesting part is that almost all of that money came from anonymous six-figure donations like Mikey Bloomberg. Friends, I can't express how creepy it is to me that wealthy elites are silently working to disarm the sans-culottes. Should it even be legal to fund political organizations like this anonymously? How can we even call this a charity? Not to be left out, Indiana is also considering an assault weapons ban type of bill that would add a slew of new restrictions. SB 203 would ban the possession of standard capacity magazines. It would ban open carry in public places, including unintentionally exposing an otherwise concealed gun. And the way public place is defined in the law seems to include any private property that is open to the public. It also bans multi-burst trigger activators, which are defined as a bump stock, crank, or hellfire trigger. That somehow manages to be oddly specific and vague at the same time. I didn't see any of those terms defined in the law. No mention about staples or coat hangers either. And it also defines a category of regulated weapon loosely based on the cosmetic features in the 1994 AWB and makes it illegal to sell a regulated weapon to someone under 21. So, if I'm reading this right, 18-year-olds will still be allowed to buy rifles and shotguns, just not modern sporting rifle style guns that also have the evil features. In other words, they could still buy a Mini 14, certain ban-compliant ARs, and lots of other functionally identical guns that just don't look as scary. On the face of it, SB 203 looks like it might have been some kind of committee compromise, but because it defines a new category of gun, that makes further restriction of scary black rifles much easier in a future session. It's the sort of thing that lends itself easily to creeping incrementalism with small, reasonable restrictions added one at a time. And this bill is a little out of left field because Indiana has historically been a fairly gun-friendly state. I know you guys hear this every election cycle, but this year is more dangerous for gun control than any other this decade. Authoritarian control freaks have submitted a massive wave of legislation in a variety of places. I'm sure most of these bills won't even make it out of committee, but I think they may be hoping to just throw so much crap against the wall that something might stick. It's going to take a lot of diligent work meeting with Congress critters, writing letters, and showing up to rallies to stop these bills. There's been a lot of debate recently about how people should dress for 2A rallies, and I really don't want to take a side because I just want more of you guys to come. But this is what I'll be wearing at the next one. Now, if you need a little something to get that image out of your mind, have a gander at this little beauty. The Angstadt Arms MDP-9 is a new roller-delayed 9mm AR-ish PDW type thing. Visually similar to their UDP-9, the MDP-9's roller delay action allows it to save about 1.5 pounds over the already lightweight UDP-9. When a cartridge is fired, a gun must contain the high-pressure gases inside the barrel until the bullet exits the muzzle. Most pistol caliber carbines and submachine guns accomplish this by way of a strong spring and a heavy bolt. The combination of spring pressure and inertia mean that the bolt begins moving very slowly, just slowly enough on recoil that the bullet leaves the barrel before the bolt opens much. But the roller delay system, like in the MP5, allows for a much lighter bolt, and having this system in a firearm with modern ergonomics should make for a pretty sweet little unit. MSRP is $2,600, and yes, it takes Glock megs. Vortex came into 2020 swinging for the fences with a new low-power variable optic with an impressively large magnification range. A low-power variable optic, or LPVO, is a scope with little or no magnification at the low end and a dial that lets you zoom in for a higher magnification. That makes for a scope that's fast up close and allows for precision shooting at longer range. Most LPVOs top out at 6 or 8 power, but the new Razor HD Gen 3 will go all the way up to 10 times magnification. It will be available with reticle subtensions in MOA and in mils. The MSRP is about $2,900 and should be available in April. Veridian has announced a new line of rifle scopes called the Venta line. There will be a 1.5 to 4.5 by 32 millimeter as well as a 4 to 16 by 40 millimeter. The reticle is mil-dot on both, and the price for both will be about $100. The word Venta translates from Spanish as sail, so this budget-minded scope sounds like it is aptly named. Not wasting any time after Ruger announced their new 57, a polymer-framed pistol chambered in 5.7 millimeter, Veridian has also announced an E-Series trigger guard-mounted laser designed for it. One of the keys to a product really taking off is early aftermarket support, so it's encouraging to see that Ruger is reaching out and making these sort of arrangements possible. No word on MSRP, but the Glock model sells for $132 on Veridian's website. With all the talk about the new 57, another announcement made by Ruger seems to have been mostly lost in the background noise. Ruger will be offering a custom shop 8-shot GP100 chambered in 9mm. The GP100 is a pretty beefy gun, so it should soak up recoil well, but steel is removed aggressively in the cylinder and barrel shroud to keep that weight somewhat reasonable. It has a fiber optic front sight, adjustable rear, and of course all the internals are polished and lovingly fitted by the custom shop. Now, I know a lot of you probably won't dig it, but I think the styling looks pretty rad too. No word yet on MSRP. Anyone who isn't composed of absolute trash inside hates to see a kid hurting, which is why the owner and president of Henry Repeating Arms, Anthony Imperato, directed his company to make special edition rifles for Sadie Kreinbrink and Beckett Burge, two remarkable kids who are each fighting cancer. Both rifles are beautifully finished 22 lever actions, and 60 of each were made. If you would like to buy one, you can't, because they sold out almost immediately, with the proceeds donated to the respective families. But Henry will be auctioning serial number 1 in each line, so maybe you do have a chance to get one of these two rifles after all. I can't imagine what a broken, hot mess I would be if either of my kids had to go through what these little troopers are doing, and I can't help but to see my own kids in them. So I applaud Henry for helping out. Maybe I'll have to buy one of their other guns. That's all the news that's fit to scoop for this week, but I hope to see you back here soon. I also hope you'll forgive me for skipping the news next week for SHOT. Please follow along with us and let us know which vendors you most want us to pester and which products you are most excited about. SHOT is just a blur of energy drinks and commotions, so we won't be able to follow every request, but we do want to make this as interactive as we're able. We'll post the links to all the places you can participate in a pinned comment below this video. I love you.